Folks are currently walking into retail stores and paying 500 big ones for luxury coffee grinders put together with cheap plastic gears and fragile screens. Meanwhile, you can go to a local thrift store, spend $40 on a heavy commercial grinder from a liquidated cafe, and make yourself a sweeter cup of coffee for the rest of your life. The illusion of modern luxury. If you look at the premium coffee grinders heavily marketed to consumers today, you are mostly paying for a sleek aesthetic and an LCD. Inside that exquisite housing, almost every modern $500 retail appliance utilizes a high-speed direct current motor connected to a plastic gearbox. They are lightweight and heat up very quickly. But the real problem is the durability. If a stray pebble or a very dense, lightly roasted coffee bean makes its way into the grinding chamber, the torque will strip those plastic gears and destroy the machine. These retail appliances are made to look fantastic on a kitchen counter, and they are designed to die not long after their warranty expires. Heavy metal. Now, let's contrast that fragile plastic with the titans of the 90s and early 2000s. During that era, grinders like the Mazzer Super Jolly, the Macap M4, and the Bunn G1 dominated the cafe and diner industries. These machines were built to survive intense coffee making. They're cast from solid blocks of aluminum and weigh over 30 pounds. Instead of those cheap plastic gears, they have massive alternating current induction motors with a direct drive system. If a vintage commercial grinder gets that pebble or thick coffee bean like before, the motor just stalls safely without breaking a component. Because cafes may constantly go out of business or upgrade their equipment, these fantastic machines are routinely liquidated. You can find them sitting in thrift stores, on local classifieds, or at restaurant supply auctions, routinely selling for anywhere between $40 and $100. Controlled particle distribution. But the reason you would want one of these vintage heavy metal machines isn't just their durability. There's also the precision in how they actually cut the bean. The vast majority of modern retail appliances use small 40mm conical burrs that produce a chaotically unpredictable grind distribution. They create a messy blend of superfine dust and massive chunks. When the hot water hits that sloppy texture, the dust instantly over-extracts into a bitter mess, while the chunks under-extract and taste sour. Vintage grinders get around this by using massive flat steel cutting discs, ranging from 64mm on the espresso machines up to a whopping 80mm on bulk units like the Bunn. These huge cutting surfaces provide a fantastic kind of particle distribution. While they still intentionally produce the necessary textures meant to create a rich, syrupy espresso taste, the larger particles are cut to a uniform size. Because the grind profile is mathematically consistent, you can pull vastly more sweetness out of the coffee without ever getting those harsh and bitter tannins. A small modern coffee machine just physically cannot match this kind of industrial precision. The micrometer alignment. How all this works to make that perfect particle uniformity comes down to shaft tolerance. In order for flat burrs to cut evenly, the top and bottom steel plates must be perfectly parallel down to the micrometer. With the modern appliance, the intense torque of the motor causes the plastic housing to flex and the drive shaft to wobble slightly. That wobble crushes the beans unevenly, and that's what you want to avoid. But in a vintage grinder, the motor is bolted directly into a thick cast aluminum chassis. There is absolutely zero flex. The burrs, even under the most intense torque, remain parallel, which guarantees a wonderful extraction every morning. Modding. So now, after all this glazing, the only downside to buying a liquidated cafe grinder is the physical size. They were originally designed to hold 3 pounds of coffee in a big plastic hopper, dispensing grounds through a clunky mechanical chamber on the front. But the coffee community has solved this problem. If you pick up a cheap vintage Mazzer, just take a screwdriver and unbolt the giant plastic hopper. You can go online and buy a $15 3D printed funnel that sits flush on top for single dosing. Then, you unscrew the dull original burrs and drop in a brand new, fresh set of 64mm flat burrs for about $35. With a little work for 10 minutes, you have removed all the bulky cafe parts. For under $100 total, you have built a custom zero-retention Titan grinder that will easily outlast a ton of other machines and will reliably outperform a $500 luxury appliance in a blind taste test.